If you're extremely successful at the things that you're doing in life, sometimes you lose sight of that spiritual connection that you need, that balance that you need about life itself, about yourself as a human being, as a consciousness. And that bringing that balance might not be that difficult, but you have to be aware of it.
I work with a lot of people who are amazingly talented, and yet they will come and say, I'm miserable, like I don't even know what. And they think that they come to this session saying, I need to know what more am I supposed to do, because I'm not there yet. And I have to literally hold that space and say, it's not what more, but what's inside, it's not like more accomplishments. You don't have to find more to do, but find more within, so that you can be satisfied and fulfilled from a place where you still create, you still accomplish, but you do it from a place that fulfills you even before the likes and the comments and all of that.
I'd work and work and work till I would burn out, and then go off into nature and retreat and get back on that horse and produce again, and then burn out, and then that became the cycle. And it was a bit, the disconcertment in the fact that you're spending this money to retreat to a place to disconnect from the thing that's been harming your body and causing all of these chronic illnesses, only to go back to it. It's the only reason I was recharging my batteries was so that I could go back to mistreating my body, actually, and my mind.
Good morning from Canada. How's it going, Zims?
Good morning, good evening. It's going well. How's it going with you?
It's excellent. It's excellent. It's a nice, beautiful day outside, so I'm looking forward to how the day unfolds.
I'm going to try not to be jealous, but yeah, enjoy.
Well, you have plenty of sunshine in Dubai as well, I think.
Too much. Please take it.
A little bit too much.
Yeah.
Zims, introduce our new guest.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay. So today, Nick, this is a treat, yeah? I want to introduce you to someone who is very dear and very special to me. Her name is Nahla Tabbaa, and she's joining us from Jordan today. We met in 2015, 10 years ago in Dubai. And during this...
10 years.
Yes, exactly, yeah. It seems longer, but yeah, 10 years ago. And during this decade, I have had the privilege and honor of witnessing her transformation and evolution as a person, as an artist, a woman, and a friend. She is magical and ethereal in everything that she does. I feel so fortunate to be in her orbit, and her Instagram content evokes so many intense, beautiful emotions in me. It uplifts me, it inspires me, it gives me goosebumps, and it invites me every day pretty much to contemplate life, our planet, art, sustenance, and the beauty and wisdom in creating communities and experiences that connect us back to nature. So I am really excited for you to meet her.
Amazing. It's really wonderful to meet you, Nahla. That's our pleasure, and definitely mine to meet you.
Same here. And Zimmy, I've aspired towards your wisdom and your journey and your healing practices. So if anything, you've been my teacher throughout. So it means a lot, and I'm going to get a bit emotional, but at the same time, so much of it I owe to you being in my orbit. So thank you. Sorry, Nick.
It is
That's
so
okay.
mutual.
I'm going to leave you out.
I am now joining the orbit as well, from afar.
Absolutely. No, it's mutual. It's a pleasure. But I'm going to do the formal introduction now, okay, which is very, very important. And Nick and our viewers and listeners, if you want, you can just close your eyes for this one, because you really want to soak it up, because it's so beautifully written. It's poetic. So Nahla Tabbaa is an interdisciplinary artist whose practice explores tensions between the urban and the organic, the beautiful and the grotesque. Sensitive to the self-organizing agency of materials, she adventures into the world of immateriality and the intangible through experiments in alchemy and combining elements from the organic and inorganic. Her methods are intentionally slow-paced, meditative, and labor-intensive. They permeate strands of her everyday life to heal and harmonize her otherwise fast-paced life. As an act of resistance, she also leans into alternative constructs of time and ancient practices as a way to summon magic in the mundane everyday. She sees our present state as a catastrophic dystopian world that can no longer be dismantled with human hands, but rather she is seeking wisdom in the more than human world. Through working with invasive and indigenous plants, plant medicine, hiking, animal care, and reading into regional mythology and folklore, her work moves towards a place where she can propose a new system of radical care and the sacred. Her mediums are sculpture, drawing, alchemy, research, and the culinary arts. Welcome, Nahla.
Wow, that's fascinating. That is an amazing introduction. Now, tell us more about the work that you do and your journey so far.
Gosh, well, where does one start? I think I grew up in a family of artists and grew up in the countryside, actually. So I was never a city person. And growing up with that magic just at your access, especially plants, animals, seasonality, and having these energetic portals kind of like open and accessible to me. But at the same time, being in a world where you want to be a teenager, you want to be part of the city, you want to be in the hustle and bustle of everything, there was always that really interesting tension. And then we were forced to move away from the countryside and into the city, where I had to really kind of adapt and reconfigure how my senses respond to an environment like that. So for the last 20 years, I've been living in between Amman, the capital city of Jordan, London, and then Dubai. And all the while, I just noticed that my life was getting faster and faster, and I was just leaning into these corporate structures. So even though I work in arts and culture and the culinary worlds as well, like living in a place like Dubai doesn't necessarily welcome you to just say, hey, I'm going to hit pause and do this slowly. Like it's such an incredible environment for like harboring like an intense energy and work pace. And I think I did really well at it. Like that's what it felt like, really. But I also did really well because it sort of increased my appetite to look for otherworldly processes. And so I feel like I couldn't have arrived to the statement that Zimmy just read without having been in an environment that was almost triggering these desires. And so whenever I could, outside of like my hectic working life, I would seek courses and workshops and ways to live in these alternative constructs of time, or to work with plant matter or alchemy in these ways that would help remedy me, but then eventually remedy everything else around me. But I then took the decision last year to move back to Jordan with the longer term hope of moving back to where I grew up. That's still in the pipeline, but I'm around trees, so I have a view of like trees and afternoon sunlight, and that was really something that I was just really, really desiring and craving. Zimmy, you said something about sunlight in Dubai and how there's a lot of it. I remember one of my griefs actually living there was about the fact that I really just wanted dramatic sunlight to enter the household. And what I mean by that is the way sun filters itself when there are trees, or when
Yes.
it's really strong, but it's sort of like abruptly interrupted by something that was causing shade. I wanted to see that so much. We have a pocket in Dubai where in the winter months you get a bit of it, like coming into like the bedroom. But I really wanted to be drowning in that light. And that light, I followed it back to Jordan.
That is so
Yeah.
beautiful. And I'm so glad you got to do that. And I
Yeah.
think one thing I want to mention here that might be interesting is that you're half Bangladeshi, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so is Nick. So that you have in
Oh,
common. Yeah.
amazing.
Yes, half Bangladeshi, half Pakistani, half English, half Canadian, half
Oh, wow.
Emirati. I've lived over so many different places, and my mom was from Bangladesh, and my father was from Pakistan. But I feel like I'm from everywhere now because I've been
Mm-hmm.
living in so many different places. But one thing that I'll go back to what you mentioned with regards to trees and light. One of the things that I really enjoyed moving to Canada and experiencing is all of the greenery, the blue sky, and the fluffy white clouds that we have over here, which, having
Mm,
lived in Dubai for 17 years, I didn't see that much of. But over here, when you step outside, just the feeling that you get, it's like cool water over your eyes. It's like a very refreshing uh, um, sensation. Zim's just
Yeah.
kind of like, oh,
Yeah, no, man. I love trees. Like they're my spirit
mm,
family. I don't really like the sun very much. I know we need it and it's very, very beautiful and helpful, but I think I've just had too much. But I love trees, and you don't get very close access to them here as much as like not natural, like of course they're planted and all of that, but
mm.
when I go like to other countries where it's natural, like rolling hills of green and then a tree right on top, I want to roll down that hill and I want to climb up to that tree and sit there and hug it and commune with it. So yeah, trees are a big thing for me. Yeah, but
and the fall season in Canada is just absolutely spectacular with all the colors and everything.
Yeah,
yes,
So definitely
yes,
worth experiencing.
absolutely.
absolutely.
But now that you mentioned alchemy as part of the things that you do, I'm really interested to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, for sure. There's this incredible school in London called the Prince's School of Traditional Arts. And over there, yeah, they have these short courses over the summer, and I was really drawn to two. So I did them back to back. One was how to map the planets according to Socrates and Plato using sacred geometry and mathematical formulas. I have
Wow.
no great background in maths, but sacred geometry was really incredible. And our professor spoke a lot about, I guess they call them divine ratios, like you know, looking at times of the week, our body and its alignments and ratios within the body, and then looking at it, and looking at how these sort of ratios repeat themselves in other things in the world. And then
Yes.
finally, on the day when we were ready to kind of paint our sketches, he introduced us to color making and using ochre rocks that he had collected from like the side of a river on his way to meet us, malachite plants, and he said to us like yani, it was such an important thing that he added, saying that look, if you're going to indulge in such sacred work, how could you use synthetic materials for something like that? You've already gone through the labor of creating something. You need to be intentional in the entire process. And so even creating those pigments took 2 days. I became his teacher's pet because it really resembled a culinary practice, kind of like the mashing, like the smashing of the rocks, then distilling it in water, um, drying it. Yani, there were different processes to it that made me think, oh my God, this is so incredible and so magical. And that was instant magic. from a rock into a pigment and then onto your paper, and you're participating in that entire process and it's your labor, it immediately had me going back to Dubai. And I can no longer unsee the potentials of materials. I look at everything in the world now as like, oh, can this, like, if I tried to apply this light reaction, like if I tried to cook it down or crush it, can it produce a color? And the curiosity became my way of navigating the urban world. I saw flowers on the street side as like being these like really magical opportunities. Different spices that we have in supermarkets, particularly in the South Asian ones, for example, that are so abundant. And yeah, that was one way like alchemy came into my life. But the intentionality of doing it as an art practice then seeped into the way I started looking at my culinary practice as well. Just realizing that energetically, whatever I'm putting into foods and the process of making foods has been with us. That's maybe like one of the most accessible forms of alchemy, actually. We practice that every single day. When you make your coffee in the morning, you are alchemizing a material. So yes, like I had to travel far to obtain that knowledge, but actually I just needed that knowledge to tell me that it was always there.
In terms of influences, being from Bangladesh, and then you're from Jordan as well, you have influences. So tell me, what are the main influences that you've had as far as your art is concerned?
Gosh, I mean, from a culinary perspective, I can tell you about my last project that I did in Bangladesh, actually, where I had the opportunity to come there as an artist and not be infantilized by my family or doted upon by like 100 aunties, but actually be there seriously, like
Yeah.
on my own. It was drawing a parallel between plants that kind of served humanity, particularly during the famine in Gaza. I was really sort of looking at leaning towards not necessarily having a defined palette through like nationhood or the foods that I grew up with traditionally, even though like right now more than ever, I feel like we are all about protecting our culture, like trying to liberate it from any colonization, appropriation, etc. But I kind of wanted to lean into the role of plants and their contribution to man-made famines. And so with the research I had already been doing in Jordan, because we share such a similar landscape to Palestine, I was then prompted to kind of recreate this body of work in Bangladesh. But what I was looking at and in that context was foods that were served, during all traumas and celebrations and high and lows of Bangladesh, partition, liberation, famine, and even like closer in history, and trying to see what were the common threads and how were people surviving. So the dishes that I produced or the dishes that I was looking at were like plant-based mainly, or highlighting the plant, like putting the plant in the central stage. And I'm talking about like plants that you could find growing in the marshes. I'm going to butcher all the names now, but like Helen Chashak, beetle leaves, even like the use of like the high use of potato in the food, for example, the high use of like dal, jaggery versus sugar, because the British had taxed sugar really high, so jaggery became part of the palate. Another really beautiful thing I got into was actually like our use in Bangladesh of like clay pots and vessels, and how even the taste of like mud or even the smell of that, like when I think of Bangladesh, I remember the smell of the rain actually, and the smell of the ground, and eating that as a
Yes.
flavor, and how important that was. So in a way, I'm kind of in the space where I just want to be really responsible when it comes to food practices and food making. It's not been an easy 2 years. It's I mean, humanity is where it's at, but like I think to be so close to witnessing something like that, and then investigating the parallel or the aftermath of a famine like the Bengal famine, and its impact on bodies even generations after has been really jarring. And so the way I want to work with like food and plants is really about like the land will protect us if we protect the land, but we also need to be really responsible towards how we cook and how we produce.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where could one sample some of the culinary delights that are producing?
Yeah, I mean, mostly in Jordan right now, but whenever I'm in Dubai, I have worked on either a supper club or I've collaborated with several institutions. I just completed the season in Jordan where it was spring, and our spring is really, really stunning and really dramatic and really abundant. And most of my culinary work has been about getting people to experience walking in these lands. I don't want to call it hiking because it's more intentional and feels more like a nature walk where you can feel closer to these plants, let's say, and this landscape. And then I would produce some meals that were kind of there already or inspired by the land and inspired by the micro seasons. So whatever is in season at that time, in whatever like capacity. So if it's not so ripe yet and it's still a little tart, okay, work with that and celebrate it, etc. Currently in my studio, I do have two dining tables. One is indoors and one is outdoors. And that's a space where I'm just having a little bit more fun. It's getting out of like my heavier, more politicized practice, and just I called it in no particular order because I just want to bring dishes out in no particular order that people can just enjoy that are, of course, I'm heavy and intense, so like there's there's a lot of that storytelling, but it's also a space for me to just liberate myself from that and just build communities around delicious food and conversations.
Amazing, amazing. I
Yeah.
think I need to book a trip to Oman to try this out.
You'll be very well fed. Food is great here.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just want to, before we move on to my question to you, I just want to add to that, Nick. Of course, you'll see it on her Instagram page, but these little dinners that she's talking about are filled with so much love because it's not just the food that's seasonal, but she has these tablecloths that she has dyed using the natural elements and the tree right above it and the table under it, and it's just
Fantastic.
like the whole thing.
It's a complete experience.
It's not just one sense, it's all your senses plus your soul getting fed. And I have been to, of course, Nahla's Supper Club in Dubai, and I've been to a couple of her events in Dubai where she's showcased that, but I am now literally manifesting going to her studio. Like I'm really, because I'm so drawn to it. Every time I look at the pictures, I want to be there, So yeah, I'm working on that, Nahla.
I can't wait.
All
Truly.
right.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. We just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you for being here with us at the Epiphany Dialogues, where curiosity meets consciousness. If you're enjoying this episode, please hit the like button, follow, subscribe, and share with like-minded people.
And you're also welcome to join our conversation. If you have an epiphany to share, please leave us a comment or email us. Details are in the description below. And with that, back to the episode.
So I wanted to ask you, I mean, of course, with the life that is this rich that you have intentionally curated, there must be many epiphanies that have led you through different phases of your life. But the question here would be, what comes to mind when I ask you, what is an epiphany that changed the course of your life?
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about this earlier. I'm someone who thought I was quite aware of like what I was feeling and how I was navigating life. Like I'm never short of, tapping into that. But I think there was this really interesting thing that happened in Dubai where as a coping mechanism, it felt really important to lean into my success and outputs as a person navigating this career and finding herself through it. So by no means no regrets there. It's been so incredible. I'm so grateful. But the epiphany happened when it was maybe in my 8th year in Dubai, and I had met up with a friend. And with this friend, I tend to be a little bit formal with, or formal with a lot of people, not just particularly this friend, but he asked me a question, and the question was, how are you doing? How have you been? And all I could sort of just say to him, mind you, this was a summer. So summer in Dubai is not easy. That's already like a tough thing to be doing. Everyone else was like on a yacht in Greece, and I was there in the summer working in, yeah, an office that was just it did not have trees, that's for sure. But he asked me this question, and all I could like ramble on about was like, yeah, all good. I gave this event here. I did this talk here. I produced this. I produced that. And he just sort of looked at me. He's like, that's not what I asked you. I asked you how you're doing, how you are doing. How are you feeling? What are you feeling? And I absolutely could not answer that question. I found myself being an avoidant person. Maybe that was the first time it was so obvious to me, because I actually was so relieved when the rest of our friends arrived and I had to like dodge this question. But it sat with me later, and I thought, my God, well, what was I supposed to say to this person? That I'm miserable? I couldn't even say that to myself. How could I be miserable? Life was so good. I'm doing so much. I'm so loved. Like, what is it? And it was around that time where I just started to really try to ask myself that question, and needed a lot of support to answer that question, to come to terms with the fact that actually maybe it's time to really look inwards and listen to myself. I had almost severed ties with the heart. I was listening to myself, just not necessarily my heart or my body.
So important. I think
Yeah.
that if you're extremely successful at the things that you're doing in life, sometimes you lose sight of that spiritual connection that you need, that balance that you need about life itself, about yourself as a human being, as a consciousness. And
Yeah.
bringing that balance might not be that difficult, but you have to be aware of it.
Absolutely. And maybe it's more jarring for us. Like, Zimmy knows this about me. I've been working energetically for such a long time that I probably thought, yes, I've manifested it all. Everything's great. Like, it wasn't, yani, I didn't even know there was another realm to experience in just listening to myself and just listening to that like bigger calling in my life. And what was happening in Dubai in particular was, I'd work and work and work till I would burn out, and then go off into nature and retreat and get back on that horse and like produce again, and then burn out. And then that became the cycle. And it was a bit, yeah, the disconcertment in the fact that like you're spending this money to retreat to a place to disconnect from the thing that's like been harming your body and causing all of these chronic illnesses, only to go back to it. It's like the only reason I was recharging my batteries, was so that I could go back to like mistreating my body actually and my mind, yeah, because it was working as a model. And I think the other maybe confusing thing as well was that thing of like gratitude, of Nahla, you should be great. Like, what is wrong? Like, how could you not be happy with everything that you have and you've accomplished and you've achieved and you've gotten over so many things and you've hit so many milestones. So it was it took a while to really process what that was.
I think you hit a really important point here because hustle culture has become so aspirational, right? For everyone to
Yeah.
accomplish, 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 and
Yeah.
to even to create. Like, yeah, people are creating, but they're doing it from a space of pressure, a space of
Yeah.
proving yourself and all of that. And it really catches up with you because as soon as you sit with yourself and you look at all your accomplishments and everything that you've created and all the likes and the comments and all of that, and if you still feel unfulfilled, and that is very common too. Like, obviously, I work with a lot of people who are amazingly talented, and yet they will come and say, I'm miserable. Like, I don't even know what. And they think that they come to this session saying, I need to know what's more. What more am I supposed to do? Because I'm not there yet. And I have to literally hold that space and say, it's not what more, but what inside, it's not like more accomplishments. You don't have to find more to do,
Yeah.
but find more within so that you can be satisfied and fulfilled from a place where you still create, you still accomplish, but you do it from a place that fulfills you even before the likes and the comments and all of that, and it changes everything because the quality of your work transforms like yours. I mean, you were doing amazing work even then, but now is where I see that, okay, she's definitely in that place where she is living her authentic, joyful essence.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, I I agree with you, and um, I again, I think I don't want to necessarily like pinpoint it like onto a certain working culture, like if that's what it is. I think it's also just part of our journey of growing up and like sitting with ourselves and being able to be that comfortable with the way that we work.
Yeah.
And this feeling of not enough. Yeah, I I remember kind of getting excited almost like the compliment that I would get of like, Nahla, you're so busy, you do 100 things. How'd you do it? I'm like, like that sort of like being taken aback by this like force of energy was almost, yeah, empowering me to keep it up. And like you said, the misalignment with like the how sad you're actually feeling or how unfulfilled versus like what you're putting out to the world. That high functionality was the last thing I was able to address or get rid of and really try to align. Yeah.
Yeah. Once we start aligning or equating our value with output, that's where, it leads to burnout. And
Yeah.
also, I feel like sometimes that is important. It's needed. Some people need to get to that place so that they can recognize that value is not about output. It's about what you are transforming within and then putting out. And it's, yeah, so that's all I was saying.
Mm. And I think there's also that feeling that yani, as women, that pressure to kind of really build these careers and really honor our families and our education and work really hard to prove ourselves and ultimately a masculine world by leaning into our masculine energy more is such a big part of it as well. It is really fulfilling. That's the thing. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, it's a great place to operate from, but I'm just so happy to see more and more, let's say, content and storytelling around the fact that we can lead with softness and we need to go back to a world where we were leading with our softness first and foremost.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it really does seem like at some point recently the world seems to have taken a turn, whereas
Yeah.
previously it seemed like, okay, now with the invention of the internet and people coming closer to each other because they are able to see each other's cultures, they're able to experience each other's environments and all of that via social media, videos from people, everyday people, and all of this kind of stuff. It seemed like the world should be coming closer together. But recently, it seems like things are going in a slightly different direction, where people are kind of closing themselves off into their own groups and not willing to connect with each other more on a human level. And I don't know why that's happened. And I hope that we can bring ourselves back on track to becoming a common people of this planet, you know?
Yeah.
Nahla, tell me, have you been able to find a little bit more balance now, and what's that journey been like?
Yeah, absolutely. In moving back to Jordan, one of the first intentions I set for myself was to lean with the seasons. So that's my construct of time right now. Jordan has so many micro seasons. In fact, our winter into spring is divided into 12 and a half day phases and cycles. And it's like an almanac that we study, and it's part of our folklore.
Wow.
But yeah, but in doing so, it's helped me really find that wisdom, and and how trees operate, how the sun shines, how the world keeps turning. Uh, Also, again, just being so impacted by what the last 2 years has brought in terms of grief and pain and war and suffering. I think there's like we were also forced into this space to really just lean into grief, because that grief just sat in the body for so long that instead of wishing it away, you just had to kind of embrace it and sit with it. So I feel that the alignment happened because I've just decided to be much kinder to myself, and where I was able to work. It felt like a repeat of COVID in so many ways, like
Yes.
those earlier days of people not being able to produce, to work, to get out of bed, etc. It definitely hit hard again. And also I was in an environment that seemed to collectively have that energy. No one was high functioning here. No one was censoring themselves, etc., etc. It's a very different environment. And so you're really just forced to sit with that a little bit. And so, and also to have so much anger towards the way things were going, I think also mandated that whatever you do sensitively and authentically, truthfully, and and not beat around the bush in any way. So I think all of those things came together. But I have to say that, yeah, like when it comes to working, I still have the energy to produce a lot, but I check in with myself first. I really, really just make sure that this not that I wasn't checking in with myself before, but I think my priorities have changed a little bit. And I'm allowing also the land to inform me of what's going on for me to make it happen. I'm not making anything impossible happen. I'm not extracting either. I'm not imposing. It's just, yeah, there's a rhythm that's a collaboration that's a little bit different.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
so beautiful, so intuitive, you know, and connecting with nature that way. And yeah, like you said, I mean, I think a lot has changed in the past couple of years, even in terms of just the collective, of course, more so in certain areas than others. But I feel like the space that has been created to hold grief, which is something that men usually don't like to hold or, you know, express, has brought about a bigger embodiment of our feminine energy. And then even for us to hold that righteous rage and anger, which men usually do,
Yeah.
and women are not allowed to or seen as good, you know, if you do it, being able to do that, balancing this masculine and feminine across the board for us, I think it has been a very, it's been a very fortunate outcome of an unfortunate situation right now. But I feel like it will lead to these situations being sorted because the energies are being balanced and held better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in holding that rage, there's more space to say no to things, or you know, not wanting to collaborate with a certain cultural institution, or be a little bit more protective of colleagues and workspaces that it's really not on to be overworked. Like
Yes.
I feel like I'm in a position of being able to just have the serenity and be a little bit vocal about that without worrying about how that might be impacting me. A recent program that I organized and facilitated and created for the Islamic Biennial in Jeddah, Rewilding the Kitchen, ended up being this really magical experience of, it was an artist residency, like an artist and culinary residency, but we were working with plants and plant material throughout the entire structure. And when myself and my co-collaborator, Shireen and Mullah, put the program together months ago, we really came at it from a dreamy space. It was, I mean, of course, so lucky to be given the freedom to be that trusted to create
Yeah.
something like that. But I know that when we were planning it and writing down like what we imagine the outcomes to be, it was coming from an entire different place in our bodies, for sure. And we let that lead. I don't know how that applies to like more corporate structures and the way we brainstorm things, but I think it's really about doing your best to really lend an ear to listen to what, yeah, the land or these non-human energies want to tell us first and foremost.
True. Very true.
And animals, of course, right?
Yeah.
So important. We haven't, my wife and my daughter, we haven't had a pet for a very long time, and we recently had a cat join our family, and a couple of years ago, and the energy of the house has changed so much because of Bento. Just watching him just go about his business, being a cat in the house, brings so much joy to us. It's something that I would definitely recommend to people if they need a little bit of energy in their life to have a pet and animal, be around animals. There's definitely a joy in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Nahla, we're coming to the close of the show, so I'm going to ask you a question that we ask all of our guests, which is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh. To not be so hard on myself, like, and not gaslight myself and trying to be fine all the time. Like, I've had a tough, painful journey, and it's there was so much of a rush to get through it, get over it. I hated dwelling so much. It was so uncomfortable. So maybe like just learn to sit with grief a little bit more, not be so scared of it, and not be so hard on yourself when you absolutely can't. I think that would be the main advice. Like the kindness that you give to others, especially in healing and community practices, you really need to give to yourself as well. You need just as much support.
Oh, 100%. That
Yeah,
is very
yeah,
important. Yes.
yeah,
Well, just
yeah.
imagine that you have just gone and told her that, and she will do better. Yeah, that comes from Nick's
Yeah.
book, by the way.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
that's his theory, where he talks about how whenever we feel uplifted or we feel a burst of compassion or optimism when we're going through tough times, it might just be us from the future going and giving some comfort to our younger self, saying you're going to be
God,
okay. You're right. I wanted to share
I
that with
love
you.
that.
Me
Yes.
too. It's my favorite thing from the book, which has a lot of amazing things. But yeah, that's why we're asking this question to our guests at the end, because we are taking part in changing some pasts, and coming to the future stronger and better. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for
The
sharing.
other one, listen to your gut, listen to your intuition. Like, don't really, truly, like, the more we listen, the more magic, you know, the more we start to see its magic, that's relationship. And
For sure.
intuition's always there. Like the voice is always there. It's more like, yeah, don't your body is already that like temple of wisdom. Like don't always seek it through external interventions or like, yeah, I don't know, other things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things is we have to kind of quiet down some of the noise that's happening because of past events, because of past experiences, to really be able to listen to our intuitions more clearly and to trust them more.
Mm,
Well, Nahla, thank
definitely.
you so much for your time and for joining us on the Epiphany Dialogues. And
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I hope that we're going to get an opportunity to meet each other in person as well at some point.
Yes, absolutely. Otherwise, I want to read that book.
Sure.
Yes.
I will definitely put some links into
Please.
the episode as well, and your Instagram and your social media contact details, etc. So thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, my
And
lovely.
Zims, I will
Thank
see you
you.
next time.
Absolutely. Looking forward.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.